So I'll keep you posted as that evolves. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. With Jewish Family Service. I was speaking to Andy Lowe earlier this week, and that, if you recall, she's the one in charge of many things with Jewish Family Services and the food bank that we helped. If you remember, a lot of us helped out when they had the food drive at all the synagogues in the area. But the thing to keep in mind is, right now, today, they've been running out of food. So when we have our meetings, bring in food. It has to be kosher, but as strange as it seems, something she said they could use, peanut butter and jelly. Because they give out cans or the jars of peanut butter and jelly, and then people go home and make sandwiches. But there really, really are quite a few people in the South Jersey area that don't eat unless they can get some food donated to them. So I urge you to bring something, and it doesn't have to be just for our meetings. We got a small box of we got a popcorn and a small box of cereal, but we should remember to try to bring in something every meeting. And if you can't remember and it hits you during the week, bring it over to the Jewish Family Service offices at the other end of this building. Okay?
Thanks, Mike. Ed Silver, JCRC. Ed?
Well, the JCRC had a number of interfaith events that have already passed. I understand they were very interesting, and there is going to be a play that's going to be represented by the part of the JCRC, which is the Goodwin Holocaust Museum, which is downstairs. The play is called Warmth, and it's going to be Wednesday, May 21st, 7 o'clock right here. Seating will be $36 for general admission. I'll give Randy the notice. Hopefully, we'll have a turnout from the men's club. Also, you know, one of the agenda for the JCRC is Israel advocacy, and I don't know if you remember, but they just celebrated 66 years of the birth of the State of Israel. And I don't know if you're aware, they have actually a Declaration of Independence. And I have a copy of it, which I'll pass around if you're interested in reading it. But I'd like you to just hear one paragraph. By the way, it was signed by David Ben-Gurion and 37 other founders of the State of Israel. It's a very moving document. I invite you to read it, but I'd like you to just hear one of the paragraphs. We appeal in the very midst of the onslaught launched against us now and for months to the Arab inhabitants of the State of Israel to preserve peace and participate in the upbuilding of the state on the basis of full and equal citizenship and due representation in all its provisional and permanent institutions. So here was a document extending peace to the Arabs in the area. I don't know if they've ever extended that kind of invitation.
Unfortunately, I don't think so.
Right. So I'll pass this around if you want to read it, and Randy, I'm going to give you the notice. Okay, thank you.
Can I just get to speak on one other thing? Joe Conklin.
Oh, do you have that? While you're up here. Recently, Dave Swartz and I were talking about getting another comedy night going. And we were going to actually talk about it Tuesday. But I called our president. Right next door at the Temple Emmanuel, they're having an open to the public comedy night on Sunday, June 8th at 6:30. So I thought we would just invite our people there, and we don't have to do with the organization. It's a night of laughter to benefit education at the temple. It's Joe Conklin is going to be the primary comedian. It's Sunday, June 8th at 6:30, and it's $20 admission, which isn't bad at all. And I'm hopeful that we can actually get a representation from the men's club. There's a phone number to call, so I'll make sure that Randy gets this as well. And if you guys even want to meet on your own beforehand, maybe get a bite to eat, I'm going to call them and see if we can sit together, but you know, it's first come, first served as well.
Just a show of hands. If you just raise your hand if you think you might be interested in, well,
good number.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, with spouses or something?
Yeah.
Dick has done a lot of work on the interest survey, and he has a report for us, and it's very, very elaborate and good.
Well, first of all, I want to know if anybody hasn't filled out the survey yet. Do you know if you've all done your survey? Have you done your part?
I don't remember. It was so long ago.
Well, it took us, this is a non-paid position last time I checked. Anyway,
I didn't get paid either, so.
You get an extra onion.
That's right.
okay, let me just tell you a little bit about the survey in this a little background that Dave, Wynn, myself, and Dawn, I guess the three of us, and of course other members, Mike, and a whole group of people on the board decided, hey, let's find out what people are interested in doing, what kind of speakers they want, what kind of help can the board members get that run not only membership, but finance and operations, communications. So we handed out this survey. Took a while, as you can imagine, to get responses back, but we've done pretty well. We've gotten 43 responses out of about 80-something members that we have now. And I'll just give you a quick summary. I don't want to check off everything. We did find one person that liked basketball. I think that was your son. If anyone else, by the way, this is a survey that's always in progress. I mean, just because you fill out a form and you say, well, I want to be in membership, doesn't mean that that's the only thing, or if you want to help Dave Schwartz with a speaker, and then we all go away, isn't the way we want to do it. We all want you to continue to think about the organization and what needs to be done to keep it active. And we've grown, I think, a little bit in the last year. As you know, it's difficult to keep the membership up and to keep people interested, and that's part of what this survey is all about. Some of the highlights: 8 still want to bowl, that's nice. 5 enjoy pinochle and would like to participate in that. Others want to be active in 50-50. We had a couple that want to play table tennis. Probably our most popular item, other than being a table captain, is to play fantasy football. I think that's going to grow, as Don said. More and more people are going to want to do that. 2 want to help with note-taking that Barry Adler does at the board meeting, which is very helpful. And even Mike Perloff, there were a few that said, let's work on the newsletter. And I think that's something that we'd like to see come back. I know he very much wants to see that. 7 people want to help with operations in general in the meeting. And let me just go into some of the speakers. We had one person that said, hey, let's talk about cars, computers, and phones. I mean, we could bring in someone that certainly knows more about that, maybe get someone from Verizon. They can tell us the latest on what's going on in the crazy phone world that seems to change every week. Another person said, hey, let's have, and I assume that's who they were, former Secretary Robert Baker. That'd be hard to get, but that would be interesting. Another person said, let's talk about, Bob Greenberg, of course, loves to talk about insurance. Am I right, Bob? We could have you as a speaker.
Oh, I would love to talk. It's
I know.
such a lively subject.
We usually make sure there's plenty of coffee when that happens.
I can do a whole thing on fraud, but then again,
right.
you know, I don't want people to learn new skills.
Right. Now, somebody has said Social Security. There are probably some people here that are not too many of us, obviously, that do not have Social Security yet. But that's always a topic worth talking about. Variations on Judaism, JCC relations. The one that I kind of like is book review. I'd like to see a book club from this group, because does anybody read books anymore? Raise your hand if you read a book. There we go. And I think if we picked a book, I'm reading a book right now on anti-Semitism, which is incredibly revealing. I mean, we all know it's a major problem in this country and world. And that would have been, in fact, if you ever go to the Book Arts and Culture, you see all those books that are there, and I bet half of you say, well, I wish I could read some of those, had time to read some of those. But we find a book, and anyway, that's one thing I would like to see happen. Somebody even wrote vitamin D. I know I don't take enough of it, but I guess we could have someone, some health expert. So we got a lot of good information on this, and what we're going to do is follow up that people that checked off, like membership. I'm going to be calling them and see if we can have maybe a subcommittee meeting, and what other thing. I mean, there's so much we can do with membership. We do very little advertising, as you know. How do we get the word? I know one time I worked with the guy from the Exponent. What's his name? Larry?
David.
David, right. And don't do that anymore. I don't have the time, frankly. So there's a lot of things that will come out of this. And like I say, it's in motion. It's not something that's you do it once and you're done. So that's pretty much it. And let me just end with that. Does anybody need a membership application, by the way? Do you know anyone that is looking, is interested? Please let me know. We have plenty of those applications floating around. Thank you.
Thanks. And we're talking about, well, on the topic of membership, Ed Silver gave me an advertisement that I'm going to bring up to the board. I believe it was B'nai B'rith had put an ad in the paper for new members. And Ed, he said he got like 25 new people.
Really?
So that's something I think that's worthwhile that I want to bring up to the board. So.
Yeah, in all candor, there's 25 new people, but there are women and men.
Right, but still, you know, it might be something that we want to consider, Mark.
Voice over the summer.
Okay.
That might work.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, again, and with the interest survey, you know, this is our organization, it's your organization, we want to make it better. That's why we're trying to solicit your ideas and, you know, help us, you know, to accomplish that. The Maccabi games. I want to ask Mike to speak about it, but there's some little aside here I have to bring up about it. I did post the information on the agenda, and I have down here the dates are August 10th through the 15th, and the locations are Cherry Hill East, Eastern Regional, Cherokee, and Voorhees. The next line I had, I guess I was testing to see if you read the agenda. I intended to write time shifts needed 8 to 12:30 and 12 to 4:30. I accidentally left out, and Bob Greenberg pointed out, the F. So it says time shifts needed. But at least Bob passed the test. Thank you, Bob.
That's because he's an insurance agent.
Surprise spell check. At least I know it passes the spell checker. And we're seeking 1 or 2 guys. The duties are to provide a presence, but Mike, I'm going to ask you. Okay. And they're all, there's one other thing I would add if you don't ask.
Well, the main thing is that, of course, any terrorists that come to kill Jewish children, they'll be scared to death if they see us there, right? However,
especially for all 30 of us in our shirts.
that's for sure. But the important thing is visibility. Visibility. The difference between, I'll give you a quick example. There's a difference in some philosophy between law enforcement in the United States and law enforcement in Israel. In the United States, if you see a police car coming up from behind you with its lights flashing, you have a rush of adrenaline. Oh shoot, what did I do, right? You check your speed. In Israel, the lights are always on because it's visibility and deterrence. They want their presence known. Now, how does this relate? Obviously, you figured it out already, but how does this relate to you as individuals and the Maccabi games this summer? They want as many people as possible to have on and be there representing the security forces. The security. Now, what do? We just check to make sure that people have the right badge. It's not a big deal. You don't have to go through commando training. You just have to be alive on that day and show up. I urge you, volunteer for half a day during the summer, and if it's too hot, believe me, they're going to take care of us old guys. They'll have the water and everything. You're not committing, but how many people think you might be able to commit to half a day? Great. We need a list. Can somebody pass around?
We're looking for hosts.
Well, that's a separate committee. This is all I know is about the security committee.
Great, that's.
All right, Don, that's it. Unless there's something I left out.
They're also seeking 1 or 2 of our members to serve on the formal security committee to get our input. And Mike is already one of those people. Mike, did you want to mention while you're up anything on Israel advocacy anymore?
Yes, sure.
I'm sure that quite a few of you follow different aspects of the Israel-Arab conflict. Some people, their only real interest is, well, I'm Jewish, it's the Jewish state, so I'm for Israel. But if you're ever outside discussing the Arab-Israeli conflict, or it comes up in the conversation, just saying, well, I support them in their right because I'm Jewish, that's not going to cut it, is it? Not at all. It's also like if some people, the evangelicals and some of the Orthodox, they believe the Bible, every word of it. And their reason for supporting Israel is Ezekiel 11:17, you know, walk the land and I will give it to you, saith the Lord, and other parts of the Bible. However, quoting biblical passages to someone for whom they do not have a Bible-based faith, well, that bucket holds no water, does it? Not at all. I'm sure we've all been somewhere and we heard people talk about those damn settlements if it wasn't for that, or some other thing. They're on Palestinian land, or if they only ended the occupation. So far I haven't said anything that could be justified by any documents or historical evidence. You're just at a loss because you don't know what to say. Well, for those of you that are interested in Israel advocacy and have been, there are all kinds of organizations. There's Stand With Us and there's Camera. And some people say, well, I go to AIPAC. Well, they don't do advocacy at the grassroots level. They're at the legislative level. They do a fantastic job. But don't be mistaken. The staunchest supporter of Israel in the Senate or the Congress, if they sense that their grassroots, their voters, are going to kick them out if they support Israel, they're going to drop it like a hot potato. So it's important to maintain grassroots support for Israel. How? Well, there's many organizations, I started to say, but they're for individuals that have an interest. There has been a series of conferences across the country, primarily sponsored by small guys like Foreign Ministry of Israel and the Embassy, the World Zionist Organization, Merkaz, and a few others. And what they are for is not individuals, they're for representatives of synagogues and other organizations that wish to either create or enhance Israel advocacy committees. And I've been fortunate enough to be the chairman of the committee in charge of these conferences. And for the first time, we're having one close by. I don't have to fly to California or Chicago or any of these places. It's going to be in Elkins Park on June 1st. We used to have a 2-day conference, but we found many people had to leave for work on Monday. So we condensed it into one long day on a Sunday. We only ended up losing about 2 hours of actual training time. And if you have any interest in helping the South Jersey Men's Club have an Israel Advocacy Committee, I urge you to sign up to go. It's on Sunday, June 1st. I believe already we have one person, Ed Silver, and Dave Nydorf. And I can't tell you enough about it beyond if you ever had a desire to be able to do something, this is it. Now, the one thing that will help is that we've built up a network. In this area, the South Jersey, Pennsylvania area, people will be networking. And we also have networks in the California, the Midwest, and the South. And eventually, when they build up enough, I'll have the committee chairman network, so we'll have a national network. We get help from the embassy. We get help from the World Zionist Organization. We hear from groups like the Israel Project, Stand With Us, Camera, and others. And we pretty much cover a wide spectrum so that we, like they say, have everybody under the tent who has an interest in Israel from the left to the right. Any questions?
What's the dress code?
About what you're doing now. I mean, I have to wear something, you know, a jacket or something, but that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Now, I know we have a list going around. Ed, you started one for the Maccabi games. And I don't know if there's another one. Maybe we get one going around. Ed, if you have another sheet of paper for Joe Conklin to see who, and Israel Advocacy. If you're running out of paper, I'll ask you to put it in the budget as a budget line item. All right, so we're going to have 3 lists going around. Before I have Dave come up to introduce our guest speaker, June 29th, our meeting here is downstairs. This room is being used for some other purpose, so just know when you come in, we're meeting downstairs in the back of the, I guess you call it the social hall, So that's where we'll be. If you come up here by mistake, you don't see us, we're downstairs. Okay, Dave, anything else before I have Dave? Anything we miss? Anybody? Okay, Dave, I'll ask you to come up and introduce our guest speaker.
I'd like to indicate that a friend of mine at Centennial Mill, Dick Castro, has offered to give a tour of the Battleship New Jersey. The board of directors, our board members have to vote on it, but I would like before the end of the meeting to hear how many people would be interested in taking it, whether it would be in lieu or with a meeting or a separate day. I took the tour a few months ago, and it was, I think about 3-4 hours, and ended by lunch, which we bought ourselves. We ordered out for hosts. But the tour was really great. You have to be able to move around a little bit and go up a ladder or two, but it was really very interesting. And could I have a show of hands who might be interested in doing that? Terrific. All right. Thank you.
It's tough getting around on that ship.
I'm going to introduce Marcel Farago. I've had the pleasure for a number of years as a member of Temple Emmanuel on Col Nidre, listening to Marcel Farago, our speaker today, a cellist, open up the holiday with playing Col Nidre on the cello. And I'll tell you, it was extraordinarily moving, and he did it for quite a few years. Marcel is a resident of Cherry Hill, born in Romania, a member of the Philadelphia Orchestra for many years, and I found out this morning he speaks 8 or 9 languages fluently. So with further ado, I welcome Marcel Farago to talk about his wonderful history.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. No ladies, just gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me for breakfast, which I enjoyed very much. And I hope that you enjoy my biography. My name, as you know, as you heard, is Marcel Farago. I was born and raised in Romania, in Timișoara, which is a city in the southwest of the country, part of Transylvania. My parents were from Hungary, and because of the moving of the borders, they became Romanians, and I was born in Romania. My parents had 3 sons. I'm the middle one. My father was a violinist, teaching violin in the conservatory, the music school. My mother was a pianist, and she was teaching at home privately. The 3 sons, every one of us at a very early age, started to play the violin. My father never asked us if we want to play the violin. He told us that at a certain age that now you're going to play the violin, and he made sure that he and whoever it was practiced together. He never told us to go practice. He said we practice together. At a certain point, my father had a dream of forming a family string quartet. And of course, for that, he needed a cello player. He looked around. He said, "Eeny, meeny, miny, moe, Marcel, you are the cello player." At that point, I had no idea what is a cello. I was 10. And my father came home with a cello one day, and he said, "Tomorrow we go see the cello teacher." I have to back up a little, that, as I said before, we sons, every one of us at age 4 or 5 started to play the violin, which included myself too. At age 6, every one of us added the piano, so now I had 2 instruments to practice. And at age 10, I added the cello, which now I had 3 instruments to practice. We practiced at home all the time. Music was prevalent in the house day and night. We did form the family string quartet, and we performed quite a few times before the war as a string quartet. I liked very much to study composition, and I started composing, and one of my first compositions was a string quartet, naturally for the family string quartet, on Hebrew songs that we performed many times back in the old country. Actually, that string quartet I performed with my colleagues here in Cherry Hill as well, in the old building. In the 1930s, life was very easy for us because my father, being in the school system, the summer was off, so we traveled a great deal. Looking back, I don't know how they made it with three unruly sons and very young, and they traveled out of the country all over the place in Europe in the summertime. I one time even went to Paris. I still don't know. At that time when there was no telephone and no intercom and how they made the reservation in the hotel, I just can't figure it out. I would like to talk to you about one trip we took to former Yugoslavia, which doesn't exist anymore, because that had a very interesting incident. We were in the place called Crikvenica. And we were walking on a Sunday morning on the main street, and the main street, both sides were vendors of all kinds of fruits and vegetables and others. And I happened to see a place where they sold ice cream. So I told my father I want ice cream. My father said no, and I said yes, and finally, what do you think I want? So my father took me over, bought the ice cream for me, and then we come back to my mother who had the other son, and my father says, where is Frank, the youngest, who was at that time was 5? So my mother said, I don't know. So where is he? I don't know. So my father didn't speak the local language, but German language at that time, in the 1930s, was very prevalent in Europe, all over, especially in Eastern Europe. So he goes over to the first policeman and asks him, do you speak German? No. So he gives a sign, did you see a little boy with a hat, a boy 5 years of age? No. So he goes to another one, same thing, do you speak German? A little bit, maybe. Did you see a little boy with a hat, 5 years of age? Yes. Where is he? He went that way. Okay, can I go after him? Sure. Over there is a border guard from Italy. So he talks to him, said, do you speak German? Yeah, a little bit, yes. Did you see a little boy with a hat at 5 years of age? Yes. Where is he? He went to Italy. Oh. Can I go after him? Yes. Where is he? On the top of the mountain singing. So he brought him back, and that was the incident, one of the few incidents with my younger brother. Now, I divide my life in 5 episodes. The first one, you just heard, from birth to until the beginning of the World War. The second one, the war years. The third one, wandering around in the world. The fourth, the United States, life in this country. And the fifth, the last one, my retirement. I come to 1940. The anti-Semitic laws in Romania were saying that all men, I emphasize the word men, between the ages of 18 and 50, able-bodied, go to forced work camp. I was included, my older brother was included, my younger brother no, my father no, and of course my mother as well no. So we just two of us, my older brother and I went to camp. My older brother, as he told me, we didn't go in the same camp. As he explained it to me, he said, First day he looks around, he said, "That's not for me, thank you very much." He walked away. I said he walked away. Nobody asked him, where does he go? Nobody asked him, why does he go? He just walked away and went into hiding during the whole time of the war. I come back to him, to his story yet. I was sent from camp to camp, to quite a few camps. Some of them were easy work, others not so easy. The first one was not too far, about 25 miles from my hometown, and it was the summertime. It was agricultural work. They picked me for a special job to get up very, very early in the morning, and they gave me a little dolly, a one-wheeled contraption, and two very big metal cans filled with milk, fresh milk. And my job with another co-worker had the job to take it to the next village where it was processed. So we go walking in quite a distance. I don't remember how many kilometers, but we were walking, and all of a sudden we come to a river. No bridge. Now what? I was a pretty good swimmer. My co-worker was a very poor swimmer, but he swam across. Now I was stuck there with these two huge cans, which were very heavy, and of course that dolly. I managed somehow to take one over and then come back and do the other one, and then take the dolly, which was very complicated because it was very awkward. But I managed to do it. We dropped over at a place where the milk was processed, and I was free until about noon, when I can take the cans back to the camp. In the meanwhile, I found a place where I could buy homemade bread, and I came back to the place where they had the milk processed, and I was free to take anything what the milk was processed, like cheese or butter or cream or whatever. So that was my meal. This was the first camp. Then I was sent in another camp which was right in my hometown, which meant that I can stay home, and work was from evening to morning during the night, and the work was to clean carrots, lots of it. Then after a while they sent me to the mountains. That's where I spent the longest time. In the mountains of Transylvania, we were supposed to build a road. Summertime was okay, but the winter time, of course, we didn't work at building the road, but we cleared the snow from the highway. I remember that one time I was clearing the snow from the villa where Antonescu, the prime minister at that time, spent his time, and I greeted him, and he greeted me also when I was cleaning the snow from his walkway. I had already at that time problems with my vision. One of them was that night blindness. And the days were very short, and I asked the sergeant that, look, after dark I don't function, give me the permission to come home to the barracks before it gets dark. I said, okay, no problem. I had an accordion with me, and every evening I entertained my co-workers with my accordion. The camp was directed by an officer. At that time happened to be a lieutenant who came back from the front, who had to recuperate. He heard me playing the accordion. He said, on Saturday, why don't you come with me and you play the accordion the whole night, and you can eat and drink whatever you want, whatever you find, and spend the night there, play the accordion for me. And when we danced there, he had some, I don't know, prostitutes or whoever he had. Okay, so comes Sunday, he said, let's do it again. Okay, sure, fine, why not? Comes Monday morning. Everybody goes out to work. Now, I was working the whole night. I'm not going to work. So I told the sergeant that I was working, I'm not going out to work. So he reported me to the lieutenant, and the lieutenant said, yes, you go out to the place where we work, and you go to sleep there, and I wake you up before the general comes to control. So I said, no deal. I stay home. So we had an argument, and finally he punished me. He put me in a cellar full of rats, and I stayed there. I was in prison for about a week. And my co-worker said, don't be silly. Well, what are you doing in the cellar with the rats? Come out and make peace with the lieutenant, and everything will be in order. I said, okay. I came out, and I went to work. Come Saturday, guess what? The lieutenant comes to me, come play. I said, no. I already did that, no more, I don't play for you, no. I play for my co-workers, not for you, because I'm not working on Saturday, I'm not working on Sunday, I work on Monday. So it was not a friendly friendship, but before he went back to the front, he said, let's make friends, and he invited me to a restaurant, and he said, let's be friends, and you eat and drink whatever you want. Then I went home because, again, I come back to my eye problem, and I said, I have to see an eye doctor, I have to go home. So they sent me home, and the eye doctor said, go back to work, you're okay, you're fit to work. Now, of course, they sent me to another camp, which was on the eastern front of the country, very close to the Russian front. This was in August 1944. We worked there. I was the leader of the group, and our job was to dig trenches and put in a board, and then the cables, and another board to protect the cable, and then throw the dirt over it. So I told my workers, let's not do that. Let's not be silly. Let's damage that cable. Why do we want to protect it? We have this board, and we are in a camp of corn, fresh corn. Looks very beautiful. So let's make a good fire, a nice fire, and let's enjoy the corn, which we did. Of course, the Russians came in before the cables were put in the trenches. The camp guards disappeared overnight on the 23rd of August 1944. Now please keep in mind this date, because I come back to this, 23rd of August 1944. Now I come to the next period in my life, traveling around. I walked home, which took me, I think, about 6 weeks to walk. And I came home and I told my father, I want to practice the cello because I want to go to Italy to study with a great maestro. But before that, I have to bring back my technique, which I lost completely. He agreed, which I did. And at a certain point, I got a draft from the Romanian army. I'm talking about after the war in Romania, that they drafted me. And at that time, the service in army was 4 years. So I told my father, look, no way, I'm not going to give any more 4 years from my life. The city where we lived, Timișoara, was very well situated for my purpose. It was a walking distance from Yugoslavia, the border, and it was also walking distance from Hungary, which of course I took advantage of it. I packed my cello and the suitcase, and I walked over to Hungary. Mind you, it was not so simple, but I did. I spent some time in Budapest, where I became a member of the orchestra, and among others, I befriended many friends there, many musicians, composers, and I met a lady there with whom I fell in love, and I promised her marriage. I told my friend and my future wife that I don't want to stay here. This is not my purpose in Hungary. What is Hungary? It's another communist country. I want to go away. I want to go to Italy. Okay, it's very simple. No passport, no money. Go to Italy. Well, I got some money somehow. I have to tell you one interesting part of it. That I was member of the municipal orchestra, so I go to the mayor of the Budapest and I said that I would like to go to Italy to study. Could you give me the two months study in Italy, the 2 months salary? Can you give it to me in advance because I don't have any money? So I said, sure, of course. Here's the check. Go ahead. But he said, this is the strictly communist countries. He said, but of course you don't come back. Now that I found like it's a trap, and I said nothing. I just kept quiet and thanked him for the money and walked out. Later, of course, he also defeated from Romania, defected. I went to Italy to study with Casado in Siena for 2 months. Now, my future wife had a sister living in Paris, and she went to Paris, and I wrote to her that, okay, now I want to come to Paris to join you, but again, no money, no passport. So I found somebody who helped me over the mountains, and I asked myself, how did I walk over the mountains from Italy to France during the night with a cello in the suitcase? But I did it. Now, language was never a problem for me. When I went to Italy, I was already speaking Italian, and now I went to France and I spoke French. So we arrived to the first place in France, which is called on the Riviera, Menton, and my guide said that, look, Sunday morning, 7 o'clock, we can't walk in on Menton with a cello in the suitcase. They'll pick you up immediately. So I saw the point, and he said what I do. He was hiding the cello in the suitcase in a cave, and he said he goes ahead to see if there's any policeman around. Now, you guessed it again right. I never seen him again. Neither the cello nor the suitcase, not him. What would you do this time? I don't know. I tell you what I did. Because I was speaking French, I go to the first house and ring the bell. And an elderly woman opens the door, 7 o'clock Sunday morning. And I told her that, look, I just came from Italy, I was robbed, and I would like to go to Paris, can you help me? Sure, come inside. She gave me breakfast, and she said, yes, it's very dangerous for you to walk around here because the police is looking for people like you. So she took me to the bus station. She gave me money to buy a bus ticket to go from Menton to Marseille. And I told her that in Marseille I go to the Jewish Community Center and I hope I get the money enough for the train ride to go to Paris. I did, but I don't know why they gave me the money, but they gave me the money anyway. So I went to Paris. First time ever in my life in Paris. I buy a ticket to the underground, to the metro, and I board the first metro train, not asking anybody. I didn't want to be suspicious. I board the first train. I don't know which way it goes. I know nothing about the train. I just get in the train. So in the train, I ask one of the passengers, can you tell me where to get off for the Avenue Rapp? He said, I was lucky, very lucky. He said, the next station, go across the bridge, and that's where it is. So I found my wife there, my future wife. I back up a little bit because this lady who opened her door for me in Menton when I came over from Italy promised me that she will get the cello back and the suitcase because she knows this person who robbed me. She and her sister promised me that unless he gives the cello back, they will kill him. And they meant it. They looked like they meant it. So later, I did get the cello back. She sent it to me, the cello, in the suitcase. And of course, I sent her back the money what she gave me. And later, I visited her a few times with that time already my wife. Life in Paris was quite difficult, but because I had no permission to work in my field. But we were managing somehow. My wife and I was teaching privately. My wife was working with her sister in all kinds of odd jobs for women, dresses, alterations. We had some good times in Paris and some other times. They had times when we were walking on the street and just looking at the food in the windows, and we couldn't eat anything for the whole day. Like when on the day we got married, we had no money for lunch, so we went home and did nothing until the day after we had enough for lunch. Yet we had time, enough money, and time to go to Italy for a week vacation sometime. So it was up and down. One time I wrote a letter to one of my former student colleagues from Italy. I said that you live in Brussels, why don't you try to organize for me a recital in Brussels? Oh, he wrote a letter, sure, no problem, which he did. I went to Brussels, played the recital. It was paid. I got a very good write-up and came back to Paris. And then in Paris, I met another friend of mine, musician. He said, look, if you want to play in an orchestra, in Cape Town, I have my sister who lives there, and she tells me that the orchestra needs good musicians. So I contacted the orchestra. I was lucky again. The conductor of the Cape Town Orchestra was right now in Europe looking for musicians to improve the quality of the orchestra. So he heard me play. He said, okay, you will get an invitation. Things go very sweet, very quickly and very smoothly. I go to, that time, Cape Town was, in South Africa, was a British colony. So I go to the consulate and fill out a form. The secretary helped me. And when it came to religion, I said, Jewish. Ah, she said, forget it. You won't get the visa, no way. So I asked myself, after the war, this is British, no Jews allowed? Where are we? What kind of world is this? What happened? So of course the orchestra helped me, and the orchestra sent me an invitation. I got the visa, and then we took a nice long trip from London to Cape Town, which was on a ship 18.5 days. It was a wonderful passage because the ship was so, the trip was so smooth that I didn't have a feeling of motion. We first docked to Las Palmas, which was very nice and interesting for us, and then the second docking was Santa Helena, where Napoleon was, and he died there. So we visited that place. Just before docking in Cape Town, the captain of the ship said that everybody go up on the deck, top deck, and see the beautiful view of Cape Town. I have seen in my life many beautiful cities in my life, but Cape Town beats them all. It's the most beautiful city in the whole world, no doubt. The view was first the bay, large bay, where I was told that at one point during the war, the entire British flota was docked there. I don't know why, but how, but that's what they told me. Then came the city spreading around right and left and back, and then the background was the Table Mountain. The Table Mountain was a completely flat mountain, and that's why they call it a table. Everything is stable in Cape Town, and it has many mountains around it too. I became a member of the orchestra. The orchestra was very poor and amateur orchestras. We had just a few Europeans like me brought in the orchestra to improve the quality of the orchestra. The life in Cape Town was very easy, but that was the height of the apartheid, which I didn't like at all. I hated it very much. But I told my wife, I don't want to get old here because this is not my place. I give you a few examples about the life. I went shopping because my wife couldn't speak any English, and my English was quite poor. And I go shopping at the market, and after I shop, they put in a 5-pound sugar in my basket. No charge. No charge. Sugar, no charge. 5 pounds, no charge. Everybody gets no charge. That's okay. We had a young boy cleaning the apartment, a very low price, and at lunchtime my wife gives him a cup of tea and puts down next to him the container of sugar. He wouldn't touch the sugar. So my wife said, take some. I said, no, we're not allowed. What? Not allowed to take sugar? Of course, they could have made alcohol out of it, that's the reason. So my wife put 2 spoonfuls of sugar in his tea. But this is the kind of life the apartheid had at that time, so it was pretty ugly. The nice part of it was that one day a cellist girl asked me, Marcel, do you like to climb mountains? I said, yes. So does my wife, and I love it. So I said, let's meet at this one place, and we go climb a mountain called Lion's Head. So my wife was coupled with the mother of this cellist girl with whom I was walking, and these 2 ladies, my wife and the girl's mother, were like mountain goats. I didn't see them. They were disappeared up on the top of the mountain fast. And this girl asked me, do I know how to climb chains? I didn't know that, because I had no idea what does the word chain mean. At that time was not in my dictionary. I said, well, okay, I will find out when we come there. So we come all of a sudden to a sheer, very tall rock, and there's a chain in it, and she showed me how to climb up and down like monkeys. So we enjoyed that, and we did it many times in Cape Town. One of the orchestra men in Cape Town, a Bulgarian, didn't like the orchestra at all, so he got out of the orchestra, and he left the orchestra, left Cape Town, and went to South America. He also was a violinist, and he joined an orchestra in Brazil, and he was obviously talking to the conductor about me. So the conductor wrote to me a letter from Brazil that he would like to offer me the position of the principal cellist of the orchestra in Porto Alegre. That I liked very much. I accepted it, and I wrote a letter that yes, I accept it. So we went to the Brazilian consul and showed him the paper, the Red Cross passport, so-called passport. He said, you want a visa? Boom, here's the visa. No questions asked. He said, by the way, would you like to have some Brazilian coffee? The coffee in Cape Town was undrinkable, and I'm a great coffee lover, and this coffee from Brazil at the consulate was wonderful. So we take a ship from Cape Town to Rio. We walk in Rio, a very beautiful place, and then the ship goes over to Santos, where we docked finally, where we're supposed to get off. So the passport control people come. They checked our passport. They said, but the visa is not valid. You're under arrest. Wow, thank you very much. First, I see that no Jews are allowed in Cape Town. Now I'm arrested in Brazil. It's very interesting. So luckily, the orchestra intervened. And finally, I joined the orchestra in Porto Alegre, Brazil. The orchestra was no better than in Cape Town. The conductor was a Hungarian, with which I had no friendship at all. Well, the problem was very simple. I play a whole month, and I said, money, salary. Oh, he said, no. I said, what do you mean, no? He said, here we are allowed legally to pay 6 months late. Oh. So what am I going to eat in the meanwhile? So finally, we looked at fights and arguments and discussion. I got my money in due time. After 1.5 years in Brazil, I received a visa to go to the United States, immigrate here, and the orchestra didn't want to let me go because I was the best player in the orchestra. But finally another fight, right and left. I left the orchestra and boarded an airplane and came to New York. Now I come to my next episode in my life in United States. Both my brothers, the older brother, younger brother, came to this country in 1950. I'm talking about 1955 when I came to the United States. And they were waiting for me at the New York airport. My older brother said that, look, come with me to Washington where he lived. He had a kind of a music school. He said, I give you students you can teach and you can start your life like a teacher. So I said, fine, okay. This was in August 1955. In September, my brother said that, look, the Philadelphia Orchestra needs a cello player. Would you like to try out? I guarantee you that they don't take you. So I said, why do you say that? He said, because Ormandy doesn't like Hungarians. But try anyway. So I go play, and not waiting for the result, I come back to Washington. I was teaching. The manager calls me up. He said, yes, you were accepted for 1 year to substitute somebody. And if that somebody doesn't come back, I get the first choice, not automatically the job. So I said, okay. The salary was very good. And he said, the rehearsal is Monday morning, 10:30. I said, oh, no, wait a minute. Monday is Yom Kippur. I don't play on Yom Kippur. Oh, okay. Come back Tuesday. So I come Tuesday. And I accepted the job, and Ormandy didn't know at that time, or didn't realize, or didn't want to realize that my name is Hungarian, completely Hungarian, but I was born and raised in Romania, so that didn't bother him at all. In the section, the cello section, during that season, there were two openings. The person whom I substituted decided not to come back, and another cellist had a good habit, he just died. So now there were two openings. Comes Christmas, Ormandy fired me. I lost my job, no explanation, that they gave me a time to look for another job in due time. So I play audition for Stokowski, which was in New York, and Stokowski said, wonderful, I take you, and I give you the best position I can in the orchestra, and just you will hear from the manager. So the manager writes to me, and by this time I knew how things are done in this country. I answered the manager, I said, look, that salary is not good enough for me, I need much more money. So he sent me another letter with improved salary. I didn't want to go to Houston to Stokowski. I just didn't want it. And I write another letter that, thank you for the improved salary, but I still don't like it, and you have to give me more than that. So I get more. And this goes crisscross, and the third letter from the orchestra said, this is it, no more money, this is it, you take it. So my wife said that, why don't you sign the contract? You have no job from after the season in Philadelphia, you have no job, no money, nothing, so sign it and send it away. What is it? I don't know why. I put my contract, the Houston contract, in my pocket, and I promised my wife, yes. After the rehearsal, I drop it in the mail. I don't know why I said that, but that's what I said. So in the intermission, Ormandy asked me to come to his room, and he said that the cellist from the orchestra came to talk to him about me. They said that he's a wonderful player, he's a nice guy, you have two openings, why do you fire him? You need him. So Ormandy said, you can stay as long as you want, thanks to your colleagues, which I stayed, as I said before, 4 decades. I had some good times. I'm almost finished, just a little more patience, almost finished. So I had some good times with Ormandy and some bad times. We were no friends. Anyway, I retired. At retirement, it's customary to speak about what my plans are. So I told them that, yes, I would like to compose, and then I'm a composer, and so forth. The retirement was, now I ask your memory. Do you remember that date I told you before to remember? So the retirement was on 23rd of August 1994. Does that ring a bell? 50 years to the day of the week. So I retired, and this is where I live now. This is the end of my speech. I'm right now in retirement and pension, and I'm ready to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Marcel, thank you for coming. Have you composed then?
Yes. I always compose and mostly decompose. Would you like to commission something? I accept commissions.
We need a theme song.
How long have you been a resident of South Jersey, or did you live in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I moved to South Jersey in 1976.
So you've been here a long
In Cherry Hill, and then I lived there in the same place since then.
Wow.
And if you want to know details, thanks to Lenny Siegel, because he was here a year before me, and he said, why don't you come to New Jersey? It's a nice place to live. Thanks, Lenny.
And what you mentioned that Werbendy didn't like Hungarians.
Correct.
But is your feeling that he fired you? Was it more than that?
No. He told me one time he made a declaration in front of the orchestra. We don't take Hungarians.
Well, I don't understand. Or he was born in Hungary.
That's why. He hated himself.
No wonder he didn't like him, I guess.
Did he ever play the Hungarian Rhapsody?
Oh, yes, he played. Yes, he did. Yes, yes. Any other questions?
When was the last time you performed professionally?
With the orchestra in 1994, just when I retired. No, I'm sorry, back up. After I retired, at the point when I declared my retirement, the manager asked me, am I ready to substitute? I said, yes, I'm ready to substitute for the first 2 years in my retirement, which I did about 2 or 3 weeks consecutive, and I did a few times, yes.
Mr. Farago, didn't you play for Yamaha a few times?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Well, in the orchestra, I played the cello, and I was doubling in piano or anything, keyboard, harmonic, piano, celesta, I did. The orchestra played my compositions many times. Not Ormandy, he didn't.
How are you in the languages that you learned? Do you still retain
Yes.
the basic knowledge?
Well, I speak them. I have some friends with whom I converse in these languages. When the telephone rings, I never know what language I'm supposed to speak. It's always a surprise for me. And then I have to switch. Oops, now this goes to Hebrew, or goes to English, or Hungarian, or German, or whatever.
What's your favorite piece?
My own composition.
Okay.
Good answer.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much.
One question here.
Time to play for us.
Pardon?
Yeah, that would be
We want
wonderful.
to invite you one time to play for us.
I don't play anymore. The last 20 years I didn't play anymore. No more. No. No, you can buy my record. Thank you.
Yeah, hold on. You still have your
Thank
cello?
you. Wait a minute, I have my cello. Wait.
What do you want?
My cello. No, I don't have my cello here. I forgot to bring it with me. No.
Marcel, Dave, hold on. Marcel, we'd like to give you this certificate.
Thank you very much.
Your presentation today.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And we have one more duty for you as our speaker. We have a 50-50.
Yes.
So if you'll pull one
ticket.
One ticket out.
Wait a minute. This is one ticket.
That's
here.
one ticket, and I'm going to get my glasses so I can read. But, and for $6, what do you think it? 149.
You have more?
950.
That's not the right number.
No.
1%er, man. 1%er.
Only 100 away.
Gentlemen, anything else for the good of the order?
Okay. Here, this way.
Thank you so much. Remember, next meeting is downstairs.